Okay, we're recording. Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Whether you're joining live or you're joining via the replay, there are a bunch of people who have said they're not able to make this time, but they're going to catch the replay. So welcome to you as well. Hi, Paul. I see you there. Thanks for joining. Just going to get a clock here and we can keep an eye on the time. So we'll go ahead and get started. Let me just check the logistics. I want to make sure this is recording. 1 second. Yeah, we are recording. So just a few logistics. All participants will be on mute and there is a chat functionality, but I won't be monitoring it during the session. But after we post the recording, I'm hoping what we'll get is some contribution in the group and maybe some discussion going in the Facebook group as well. So let's get started then. So as I was preparing for this, so this was supposed to be a live event in Canary Wharf at 8 a.m. this morning, and for obvious reasons, we're not doing a live event. It wouldn't have been very responsible, and then we might not have had many people show up anyway. But a good opportunity to switch this to an online event, which means I can do a live event, reach more people, and we can record it as well. So if you're on live or you're listening back, just share this with people you might feel could use this information right now. And honestly, I did sit and think last night, should I switch the topic? Should I? Because the power of the information, I feel really blessed to have the information I've got in relation to the way we think and our mindset. And I've considered switching the topic more towards thinking about giving people support and tools and guidance around the current situation right now. But I decided against that, stick to the topic that people have signed up to, which is to hear about you and maybe change in your life, or just listen to some ideas that are going to help stimulate some thinking. So we're going to stick with that. And in relation to what's going on in the outside world, I'm going to be talking about that in the days and weeks to come anyway. So this session is called a niggle for change, and it's really all about having you think about where you are in your life. And I'm really grateful to be able to be talking about this, and when I say I'm excited to talk about this information, I kind of don't say that in a cheesy way. I'm excited any opportunity I get to talk about and share the information I've got. I am really enthusiastic to do it, because it helped me go from a place of, I would say, emotional and physical burnout. So the emotional burnout showed up for a lot longer than the physical burnout. The emotional burnout you can kind of ignore. So I went from that place while in my big corporate role to actually taking on an even bigger role, the biggest role I'd ever done, leading the integration of 2 global companies, and doing that feeling super confident, enjoying it, enjoying life, really calm, enjoying leading the team. The team all had a great experience, even though it was very pressured, and all of the results were amazing. So this information I'm going to share with you now helped me do that. And then after that, it helped me move from actually being at the peak of my career, having just led that amazing integration program, to switching careers completely, because I just couldn't think of anything I would rather be doing than sharing this information. And I use the same information to help me go from there to what I'm now doing. And this information is so powerful, and it doesn't matter what you're looking for, really. I often struggle with, what's the best way to explain what we're going to talk about, because it could be that, you're in a career, like let's say you've got a role, but you feel a little bit stagnant and you feel a little bit stuck. It's kind of been a bit the same for a while, so you're looking for change. It could be that you're really successful and you're not particularly looking for change in your career or to do with your finances or your income, but something else in your life needs improving. There's always one area of our life that isn't going as well as we would like. It could be in relation to your weight. It could be in relation to your emotional well-being. And that's where, in some respects, with kind of some of the uncertainty that people are feeling right now, there'll still be something in this information that's going to resonate and help you right now. But if you are looking for transformational change as well, and maybe maybe you know what that is, maybe you've got a big goal, but you just haven't been able to step forward in the direction of it. You've got a niggle of something that you want. This information is going to open some ideas for you that will set you off in that path at least. And I'm going to absolutely share some practical tips you can put in place right now. So I've shared a bit of my story. I'll share a bit more of it just to kind of emphasize the journey that I've been through and how powerful this information is. So I mentioned I was at a place really, I'd been really successful in all my corporate roles. I'd been really fortunate to get a director position in my 20s and senior positions ever since. Often suffered from imposter syndrome, expecting to be found out. The talent police are going to tell me you're not quite good enough for this role. When I got a vice president's title at American Express, that blew my mind. The first 18 months, I probably worried about, can I do a vice president's job? The title was like really intimidating to me. And it was 6 years in, and I kind of accepted that I was okay at that job. But somewhere into that last role that I had, the last role before I left that world, or left that senior leadership position, I was feeling emotionally burnt out. So what I mean by that is I was numb. I wasn't low, I wasn't high, but I wasn't kind of laughing very much, not very playful. And I kind of, I got to a place where I almost accepted that was the norm, and that was what was my life was meant to be. Just there was nothing wrong on the surface. Nobody really would have noticed, but looking back, there was something severely wrong. And then when that showed up physically, so I got some tightness and pain in the chest, you kind of can't ignore that. So that's when this material came into my possession, and I jumped on this program that I now talk about and teach and facilitate and mentor people through, this 12-step system. And that's when everything changed. So I took on that bigger role, the biggest role of my career, at a point when I was at rock bottom from a burnout perspective. And immediately everything shifted, and I was leading that integration project calmly, confidently, enjoying it, having fun. And through that process, everything started to shift. I enjoyed that whole experience. And then at the same time, somewhere through, decided to completely retrain and become what I am now, which is a personal development leader and mindset coach. And I'm going to talk to you today about some of the ways that I got clear. And it wasn't, I actually resisted. I wasn't looking to leave that corporate world. That was me. That was me forevermore. That's how I saw myself. And I kind of resisted the idea of anything different. But this pulled me. I thought, I've got access to this information that's changed my life. It's not taught in schools, and it's not taught in colleges or universities. Most professional development courses touch on it to some extent, but they never really teach it in depth. And I just thought this should be taught, and it should be shared with people. So it wasn't like I was running away from something I didn't want. I wasn't somebody looking to leave the corporate world and leave the 9 to 5. I kind of hated that cliche, if I'm honest, but it was something I was running towards, and that's the reason I made the shift. So what we're going to get into for you today, we're going to get you thinking about goals. Now that might sound a bit bland and a bit dull, but the way we talk about goals, the way I teach goals, is very, very different. And it's not in any way bland. It's not bland at all, because this is really about you asking yourself, what is the life you want to be living every single day? Think about it. So right now, you spend your time, you use the time in your days, you move through your days and weeks and months and years doing something. So you're trading your life for something right now. And my question is that the thing you want to be trading your life for? Because if it's not, then we have a different path. You have an option for a different path. But the thing is, most of us are locked up in a habitual cycle of thinking. Well, we all are, until we become aware of this information. We're locked up in this habitual cycle of thinking that keeps us where we are. And most of the time, we don't even know that that's what's going on. So we're asking ourselves big questions in this session. Are you trading your life for the thing that you want to be doing? Because if you're not, then we can pay attention and we can start thinking about how we can start to trade our life for something that we want to jump out of bed and do. And then we're going to understand that part of your mind, that habitual pattern of thought. And I'll say that again, it's a habitual pattern of thought. So it's an automatic, and so it's an autopilot. So you might be aware of it. Most of us are not. But I'm going to show you that part of your mind that's holding you back from whatever it is you want. Even like me, I wasn't even looking for anything specific, but I found something, and I found actually a purpose. And it's a bit cheesy to say I found a purpose, but that's absolutely what I found. And you can, when you start to think in this way. And I'm going to share some of the things you can do. You know, I've got a raft and a system and a whole process that I take people through, but I'm going to give you 5 or 6 things that you can do straight away to start going for it in a big way, if that's what you want to do. And I think you will. So the first thing I want to ask you then is in relation to your emotional home. What do I mean by that? So I mentioned I was at a point where, if this is a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being I am ecstatic, I'm delighted, I'm my best version, I'm happy, I'm playful, I laugh, and 1 is, you know, my rock bottom, I'm depressed, it's not where I want to be emotionally, it's sadness, it's anxiety, whatever that is for you. So ask yourself, where is your emotional home? Where do you spend most of your time? It could look like this graph here on the slide. So kind of around a 5. This was me, I would say. Kind of around a 5. Not really experiencing any massive highs, not really experiencing any massive lows, thankfully, but pretty much gravitating to about a joy, a happiness level of about a 5 out of 10. Now, I kind of didn't realize that there was another way. I just thought that was me. I just thought I'm quite steady. I'm not prone to big lows, but does that mean then that I'm not prone to big highs? It's kind of what comes with a package, but it's absolutely not the case. So if you're somebody who's living up there at a 10, then amazing. And I'm not saying we'll live at a 10 and we can stay kind of on this emotional high, but what we can do is we can raise it the bar. So now I would say my emotional home, where it used to be a 5, it's now about an 8 out of 10. Doesn't mean I don't have ups and downs. It just means the lows don't go as low and the highs go higher because we've raised the level. So my emotional home is higher. So I live in a better emotional place more often than not. And if you think about that question of what are you trading your life for? I want to trade my life to do something every single day that helps me live as high on this chart as I possibly can. I mean, that's what we all want, isn't it, ultimately? Happiness, joy, abundance. Isn't that what we all want? And then we can think about money, whether this resonates with you or not. Money is important. It's important to Tesco's and Asda, the people we buy groceries from. It's important to our mortgage company. And also, if you think it's not important, but you worry about it, then it's important. If you think it's not important, but you know you could give a lot of value back to people if you had more money, you could contribute more, you could feel more free. So whatever you feel like, I believe money is important. But just maybe close your eyes. If you're watching this on the replay or you're listening live, just close your eyes for a second and bring to mind your current income, a figure. So you've got a figure in your mind. Now double it. So I'm going to ask, what would it feel like to double your current income? So whatever your annual, monthly, weekly salary is, you're going to double that. Now take that figure and times it by 4. How is that starting to feel? What would that open up for in your life? How would that person you are when you're 4 times your income, how would that person feel, differently? What kind of things does it open up? What kind of, maybe how are you using your time? Maybe you've got more flexibility. Maybe you're exploring hobbies. Maybe you're traveling. What does it open up for you? And then go bigger and get that figure and times it by 10. Now, for most of us, pretty much all of us, what happens here is we get to even doubling our income, but certainly by the time we're timesing it by 10, your mind is going crazy with, but that's not me. I can never do that. Why would I even go there? Why would I even think those thoughts? And that's natural because that's part of that habitual cycle of thinking, which we're going to get more into. But let's just turn our attention to goals, the purpose of this session, because I wanted to stimulate your thoughts in relation to where do you want to live emotionally, an idea of maybe your earning power. We could have asked questions about your relationships. Where would you like those to be? We could have asked questions about your fitness, your current weight. Where do you want that to be? Whatever we're asking about, it's about your goals in life. And if you do some research on goals, you'll find there's a question I asked the internet, and I said, what percentage of goals are achieved? And the answer is surprisingly small. It's 7%. So most people don't actually set goals. But for those of us that do, there's an alarmingly small percentage that actually succeed. And with what I know and what I'm telling you now, I'm not surprised that it's that low, because most of us don't have access to this information about the mindset and your habitual thought patterns that keep you locked into where you are. So when let's say we do set a goal and we want to go for something different from where we are right now, the mind gets to work telling you all the reasons why it can't be done. Certainly if it's a significant enough step away from where you are, your habitual programming sets to work and tells you all the reasons why it can't be done. So as I'm saying that, I'm saying 7% of goals are achieved. Do you even have goals? So if you do have goals, when I ask this question, most people don't have goals. The closest they get is maybe a New Year's resolution, which is kind of abandoned quite quickly, or it's a work-related goal because you have to kind of have corporate, if you're in a corporate type role, you have to have goals for the business performance. Whether you've had goals or not, we'll go through this process to talk about how most people set goals. But I'm going to ask a couple of questions for those of you that do set goals. So in relation to your 2019 goals, if I can just ask you to ask yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how excited were you by those goals? And maybe you've got 2020 goals and you can ask yourself that question. How excited are you by your 2020 goals? On a scale of 1 to 10. Now, the next question in relation to goals is about your growth. So if you look back at you 12 months ago, so the you of March 2019 to the you of today, how different is that person? How different are you from 12 months ago? Are you pretty much the same? Or have you grown? Have you expanded? Have you experienced new things? Have you stretched and pushed yourself? And I think for most people don't set goals. For those that do, we set goals to kind of play it safe. And we're taught this early on, aren't we? Most of us are taught to set goals to avoid disappointment and avoid failure. So we kind of look all around us and we say, right, based on my own capabilities, based on what I've done in the past, based on what's in society or the environment right now, looking outside, based on what I'm doing today, based on what I think my potential is, based on all of that I can see in front of me, I'm going to set a goal that looks like X or Y. Now, can you see when you set a goal in that way, you're looking at the current situation or the past situation. You're setting your goals with one foot in the past, not with a foot in the future. It has nothing to do with potential. So everything that's happening today in your world and yesterday, and who you are today and who you were yesterday, has nothing to do with who you are tomorrow and who you are in 3 months from now and 6 months from now. But we kind of set goals with this kind of more of the same. And we're taught to set goals to avoid disappointment. I mean, my beautiful, amazing, well-meaning parents would say things like, don't be disappointed if you don't get that job. Maybe don't worry if you don't get into that university. As if avoiding disappointment was more important than anything else. And why is it? We can deal with disappointment. When you look at it like that, you're like, don't set goals to avoid disappointment. Don't set goals to avoid failure, because when you do that, we're kind of playing it absolutely safe. We're playing it way beyond where we can ever think. We're kind of almost setting a goal to guarantee we don't really go much further than where we are, other than the usual incremental, very gradual, slow steps. So let's think about then. So if I've talked about goals and I've talked about stretching, exciting goals, that's what I'm getting to with why do we have goals? And we shouldn't be afraid of having goals. A lot of people say to me, yeah, but I'm happy where I am. I'm just satisfied being me. That's me. The number of people who say that to me, and it's absolutely fine to be happy, and we should be happy with where we are, but we shouldn't necessarily be satisfied, because when you're satisfied with where you are, you absolutely stop growing. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to grow, because as human beings, that's how we're built. We're built to expand. We're built to express. Anything you can see all around us was created because human beings wanted to grow. Like, we're in a cave sitting on, I don't know, a rock or a log, and somebody said, I'd like to sit on something that would be more comfortable, and they built the first chair. It's progression. Going back to cavemen to where we are now. We had dial up, then we had 3G, we want 4G, we got 4G, we want 5G. We can run, we want to run faster. It's who we are as human beings. When we're not growing, when we're not goal seeking, going after something, we're going backwards anyway, because there's no staying still. It's like a plant. It's like a plant that doesn't stand still, does it? A plant is either growing or it's dying. That's kind of where we are. And it's not really, the purpose of a goal isn't really about the getting, right? We think it is. We set our goal, we want something, and we start moving towards it, and we think, I'll be happy when I get to that point. It's not really that, because if that's your mindset, then you're in that kind of perpetual waiting room of life saying, I'll be happy when. We like the things, we like the house, we like the comforts, we like to be able to do what we want to do, we like to travel, whatever it is you want, those material things, those experiences. Yeah, absolutely, we want those things, but that's not the reason for the goal. The reason for the goal is who you become along the way in pursuit of the goal. So you're going to dig up things that from deep inside of you that you didn't even know was there, and bring out to the surface, because you are continuously then expanding as a human, growing as a human, expressing yourself as a human. And that's what we're designed to do. So the purpose of a goal isn't just the getting, it's about who you become along the way. And if you think about that, if you've ever had something, most of us have had a time in our life where we're kind of excited and we really want something, and you can think of nothing else, and you feel alive when that's the case. You feel desire. So if you can create that desire inside of yourself, that's when you feel alive. That's the kind of thing you want to be trading your life for. And then when you've got that desire and you're growing every day and you've got a goal that you're going after that you really care about, do you think energy is a problem? It's not. Energy is all around us. You don't get energy. It's created through desire. It's created through desire. When you going after something big, if you get up on Christmas Day or you're going for a big lifetime trip and you're really excited, you have no problem getting out of bed at 5 a.m. And that's what it feels like when you're really stretching yourself and living your life going after something that you are just desperate to get the day started. You're going to jump out of bed and desperate. And honestly, that's what I'm saying. When I was at a level 5, I kind of accepted that was the norm. That's just what we should expect. But then I realized that actually, no, the desire that comes when you're going after something that you really want, something that's creating that growth every day, when you feel that, you're like, oh my God, that's what it's about. That's what, you don't have to settle. And it's not about settling for where you are financially, where you are material. It's about settling for staying the same and not growing and going after something exciting that excites you. And this quote sums the whole thing up. So it's the greatest danger for most of us is not in setting our aim too high and falling short, but in setting it too low and achieving our mark. This is that setting goals in the comfort zone. So if you've got kids, are you asking them to aim high, or are you giving them advice to avoid disappointment because you don't want them to be disappointed? Hopefully by now, if you're listening to this for the first time, you're thinking a bit differently like that, but also in your own life. We play it safe, we shouldn't be setting goals to ensure we hit them. If we're setting goals that we know how to achieve, and we're going to get into goals, then we're always kind of falling way short. And if you research this, most experts universally agree that human beings don't even use anywhere near their potential, probably not even 10% of our potential. So if you think about that, if all the finest minds in the world say we don't use even 10% of our potential, that's the first thing. So we've got 90% left on the table already. You're then setting goals way below where your belief system is set, which is probably lower than 10%. That in itself should say to you that you have a lot more potential inside without changing very much to express yourself or go after something in bigger and more expansive ways. So if there's change that you're after, it's absolutely there. And the tools we're going to get into in the second part of this session, when I'm going to introduce you to this mindset and this habitual cycle of thought that's really standing in your way, then you're going to start to see that it's not just potential, it's actually really achievable. So A, B, and C goals, this is what I talk to my clients about, and this is what we create. We create something called a C-type goal. I'm going to explain the different types of goals so that you can get what I mean. So an A-type goal is something you've done before and you know how to do it. It's not really a goal. It's more like a task on a task list, so I'm going to book a holiday and I'm going to book it by the end of this month and I'm going to go in June. It's not a goal. It's just a task. B-type goals are where most of us live. This is where your SMART goals in business live. And it's kind of like you've not done it before, but you roughly know how to get there. So you've not done it before, but you know how to get there. So that's where you look at everything. You say, what did I do last year? If it's a business goal, you have to say we did 50 million last year. We're going to do 55 million this year. That's the goal. Now, technically, we've never done the 55 million, but you kind of know how to do it. You've kind of trodden that path before. It's not really going to be transformational in terms of what you need to do, the way you need to behave. It's more of the same will kind of get you roughly more of the same with a bit more effort or a few tweaks. So when we think about inspiration and desire and human beings designed to being built to express themselves, B-type goals are not going to do that for you. They're not going to give you that excitement. That's why I asked you at the start, on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited were you about your goals? C-type goals are where it's at. Now, C-type goals, it's got to be something, 2 prerequisites. Number 1, it's got to be something you really, really want, a deep, deep, deep desire, a burning desire, and it's got to be something you don't know how to achieve. So you really want it and you don't know the how. And it starts with fantasy. C-type goals are created in fantasy. And this is where you get into, you're kind of creating goals then based on limitless potential, because you're not limiting your thinking to, I need a goal that I know how to achieve. You're not limiting your thinking to, I need a goal, I need a goal similar to what I've done before. It's wide open. And that's where the brilliance exists. If you think about all of the brilliant things that we see around us, all the best inventions, that's how they were created. So there's an exercise I want you to do. If you're joining this session, then hopefully you want to put something into place in your own life. Humor me and take an exercise away. You don't need to do it now. You'll need some time to think and totally relax. Set some time aside and get a sheet of paper and put 2 columns, professional ones and personal ones, 2 columns. And just get into a relax and chill out and let your mind wander. And we're talking fantasy. We're deliberately talking fantasy. I want you to use your imagination like a child. My son, he'll sit on a chair for half an hour and he'll be going in a rocket to the moon for half an hour. And I know if I talk to him, he's like, I either don't get a response or I just get a response where I know he's not quite there because really he's on the moon. That's the imagination. And we lose that. We kind of, when we go to school, it's like, get real and stop dreaming. And, if you had big dreams as a kid, you wanted to be a footballer, maybe those dreams are like killed over time. Get back to that. The imagination is one of your 6 mental muscles, and we all have them. And I get into these separately with my clients, but 6 mental muscles. And when you know what they are and you observe them in successful people, you'll see that these people have strong mental muscles, but they're not born like that. They've kind of unconsciously or sometimes consciously strengthened those muscles. But imagination is one. And if you think about big business leaders like a Richard Branson, they are kind of seen as kind of people with a good imagination. They're visionary. Now, whether they are kind of naturally inclined that way or not, they've certainly developed that skill and they use that muscle all the time. Like any muscle, they use their imagination all the time, but we forget. And I was in change and project management, and I used to if there wasn't a plan and a path showing me the way, I thought it was a waste of time. Honestly, I did. I couldn't have been more wrong. So use your imagination. Humor me, go away, have me as a little voice in your mind saying, Lorna said, sit down and just fantasize. And ask yourself over and over again, if I couldn't possibly fail, what would I want in my professional life and in my personal life? And when you do that, you're going to get a list. And if you've done the exercise properly from your fantasy, from a place of dreams, then your list should start to look like you can't achieve it. Now, as soon as you see that list and that's what shows up for you, your mind what will show up in your thought patterns is, yeah, but that's just a fantasy. I don't know how that's never going to happen. That's kind of what will happen for most of us. The thing I'd ask you to remember then is anything we see, this mouse, a pen, this computer, the iPhone, everything around us was created in someone's imagination first by somebody like you, somebody like me, doing that exercise, using their imagination, fantasizing. If people didn't use their imagination and didn't create from inside first, everything's created twice, first in the imagination and then in the physical world. If there wasn't people around us doing that, there would be no progression. Where would we be with our progression and where we are as a human race, where this technology we see around us, the fact that we can jump in a steel tube and fly across the Atlantic, where would we be without people using their imagination? And that's what we're asking you to do. You are no different. But this is what happens. And this is where it's at. I've mentioned several times that we have this habitual thought patterns. And most of them we didn't choose. They were kind of put there when we were young. Then we bought into some of them. And then at some point we've accepted a set of ideas. And there'll be a lot of limiting ideas and beliefs in there that are there to stand in the way of you and your goal. And they're there to serve you because they're there to keep you in harmony with the way your mind is programmed. So when your mind and your desires go off in a direction of something that's somewhere away from where you currently are, your programmed way of thinking gets to work straight away. And you'll hear things like that are on this slide here. What if I fail? I don't want to be greedy. When I was talking about 10 times your income, I don't want to be greedy. Why do I need that? You might not need it. You might not want it. You might want it. You might think, but if I had it, I could help lots of people. I could give back to society. I could give it away. It's going to be really hard. We associate success with hard work, and then we tell ourselves, I don't know if I want it because it's going to be really hard. Or I should be satisfied. That's a good one, isn't it? I should be satisfied. And we think that that's like a badge of honor. Like, I'll be satisfied with where I am. Happy? Yes. Satisfied? No. When you're satisfied, you're going backwards. I don't want to lose what I've already have. So we're kind of coming from a place of fear. And then it's kind of, who do I think I am? This is where like imposter syndrome shows up. I got promoted way beyond where my background kind of dictated I should have been, where my own belief system said I should have been. I think I kind of used to think it was luck. I don't believe in that so much now, but that happened to me. And I know how that felt, because I kind of felt like an imposter, because it was out of synchronization with what I truly believed about myself. Now, we all have these negative limiting beliefs. Some of them are hidden. We don't even know they're operating. They're kind of sneaky. They're in the background, but some of them you'll absolutely recognize and you'll know about, and you'll recognize it in that inner voice, that voice that goes on inside your head. And a lot of us are good at telling other people what we're rubbish at as well. So we often verbalize these thoughts, right? I should be satisfied. I'm not good at this. How good are we at shining a light on those things? We really are. But if you just closed your eyes and I said, all I'm going to do is change one thing about yourself. You are you. I'm not changing anything about who you are, other than the fact that you were born, instead of being born into your parents' family as the son or daughter of your parents, you were born as Oprah Winfrey's son or daughter. So you are you. Nothing's changed. You're not getting Oprah's money, by the way, but you were born as Oprah Winfrey's son or daughter. What do you think that person would believe you were capable of? Now, when we do that, all we're doing is taking our mind, all we're replacing is really the programming. We're replacing what that young child and young adult was exposed to from an early age all the way through life. What did they see on repeat? What did they hear on repeat? Because that's where our belief system comes from. And then we operate within the confinements of that belief system. So all we did was replace you into Oprah Winfrey's environment. And all of a sudden you can start to see that all we've replaced is the belief system. And suddenly we know that we're capable of so much more. And it's just the ideas. That's all they are, those beliefs. Ideas in our mind that we've chosen to accept. And when we realize that all they are is thoughts, all they are is ideas, and we can choose a new set of ideas anytime we choose, this whole thing opens up for you. That's the way I see it. Your whole world can open up when you realize that that's all it is that's limiting us. So let's do a recap. And then the second part of this is really all about that part of your mind that's standing in your way. And I'm going to show you some ideas about how you can understand it and start to upgrade it to go after improvements or changes in life where you want them. So we've talked about it. So number one, you need a C-type goal. You need a goal that you really want and you don't know how to achieve. Number two, you don't know how to achieve it. Number three, we're going to get you to challenge any negative or limiting beliefs. So C-type goal, I really want it. I don't know how to achieve it. My automatic program is going to then pop up with all the reasons why I can't do it, can't have it, can't be it. So we've got to challenge those limiting beliefs. So I mentioned there's a part of your mind that's stopping you from reaching your goal. So I want you to think of your mind like an iceberg and two main parts of the mind. The top part, this smaller bit above the surface of the water, we see the tiny bit. That's the conscious mind. That's the thinking mind. And then this bottom bit is what we call the subconscious mind. And this is the bigger part, right? All the massive mass that you see beneath the surface, that is your subconscious mind. Now, the conscious mind is what we know. So it's all of the books we've ever read, it's anything we've studied, it's what we consciously pay attention to, it's what we think about, it's the intellectual mind. And the conscious mind can choose. The conscious mind can take information, it can accept information, reject information. And then the subconscious mind is often referred to as the emotional mind. And this actually controls the majority of our behavior. This is where what we call a paradigm lives. So these negative beliefs, these ideas that were programmed in that I've been talking about, that is a series of ideas. It's called your paradigm. Beliefs, ideas, values. It's the way that you uniquely think about and see the real world around you, and how you see yourself, what you believe you're capable of, what your limitations are. And that part of your mind is in the subconscious mind, this big bit beneath the surface. That's why I say it's sneaky. You often even don't know that this is running the show. But get this, it creates all of our habitual thoughts and behavior, and most of our behavior and thoughts are habitual. So it's 96 to 98% in control of our thoughts and behavior. And if you think about it, the thoughts that we think create the way we feel. So it creates the feeling day to day, creates the behavior. So behavior being how we act, what we do, what we don't do. Therefore, it's in charge of our results. So the subconscious mind is in control of your results, and everything you see in your life right now, 96 to 98% of that is controlled without you giving it any conscious thought. So if there's only 2 to 4% of your results, 2 to 4% of everything you think, you're actually pausing to pay conscious attention to. Are you starting to see why most of us get locked into a habitual cycle of thinking? Because it's more of the same. It's same old, because it's coming from the subconscious part of the mind, which we're not consciously paying any attention to. And given that those ideas and beliefs about the world, who we are, our logic, everything was it's programmed in primarily by the age of 7, but it continues up to the age of about 35. And then by then you're pretty much, that's it. So by the time you get to 35, unless you kind of become aware of this information, you can kind of predict somebody's life, right? They might have kind of some incremental growth, some ups and downs, but if you project it over the years, it's pretty much the same. It's pretty much going to be the same. That's because we're not consciously ever creating anything new, and we're not consciously choosing more thoughts than 2 to 4%. That's why when we talk about goals, we say start with fantasy, because we want you to create something new, something that's not already here in the subconscious mind, regurgitating the same ideas over and over again, expecting something to change. Now, the best idea that I love to share, and the most powerful, because it's pretty simple to understand and simple to start to change once you understand it, or a simple tools you can use, and this is called your self-image. Now, there's a guy called Maxwell Maltz, and he made what was considered the biggest psychological breakthrough of the 21st century. He was a plastic surgeon, and he would perform surgery, let's say on people's face, and improve their appearance. So maybe they had like something they didn't like about the face, and he would improve it, their nose, remove something. And he realized that sometimes when he improved the face, there was a really big psychological improvement. So the person felt better about themselves, their self-esteem. But a lot of the time that wasn't the case. So it doesn't matter how successful the operation was and how beautiful a person now looked on the outside, psychologically, they were still somebody different. They were still the old person. And this is what led him to postulate about the idea of this inner self-image. And the inner self-image is something that sits in the paradigm. And it's a set of ideas about how you see yourself, what you think you're capable of. It's how you think, it's how you act, it's how you dress, it's how you dream, it's how you love. It's everything. It's kind of your identity. So like if you think of a smoker, somebody who smokes, and they say to you, guess how many days I've been quit? And it's 10 days. And they go, I've been quit for 10 days. You think, why are you still counting? If they're a non-smoker, they say, I'm a non-smoker. It's still who they are. Because when they're counting, it's so that when they go back to smoking, they can say, guess how long I lasted? So it's a simple example, but you can see how it's your identity. It's who you identify with. And there's nothing more powerful in the human personality than a need to stay consistent with who we believe we are, with our identity. And this idea of self-image, you can't outperform your self-image. You can't outperform your self-image. It's kind of a control mechanism that keeps you locked into behave in a certain way, think in a certain way, automatically, remember, that keeps you in harmony with your setting. So you can think of the self-image, this setting, it operates like a thermostat. And there's something that Maxwell Maltz writes about in his book Cybernetics, is something called a cybernetic mechanism. And that is a control mechanism. So in a central heating system like this, the cybernetic mechanism is there. So let's say your central heating set at 20 degrees, somebody opens the door and it goes down to 15 degrees. The cybernetic mechanism kicks in, brings it from 15 degrees back up to 20. Now that's exactly what happens with humans. So let's say let's use my example, right? So my setting, it's not my goal, it's not where I want to be, but I'm set at 20 degrees in my career, let's say, before I got promoted to director. And 20 degrees is where I see myself. I might want to get to 21 and I might believe that that's possible. But I went to 25 degrees and I went from manager to director overnight. And that blew my mind. So my cybernetic mechanism said, you're not 25, you're 20. So something kicks in, and that shows up differently for different people. For me, it showed up as imposter syndrome. So I didn't believe I was worthy. I spent the first 12 months in fear and anxiety and worry. It showed up as me working really hard, trying to be perfect, because I never felt quite worthy of that 25-degree title. This shows up with weight loss. Let's say your weight is 20 degrees. Maybe it's not your goal, but we all have a weight that we kind of gravitate back to. It's roughly where we're comfortable, but we maybe want to be a bit thinner. And let's say you're set at 20, but you want to be 25 in relation to your weight, and you go on a diet. So you get moving in that direction and you lose some weight. You know what happens? The cybernetic mechanism, just like the heating system, it kicks in and it says you're not at 25 degree with your weight. And it's going to drag you right back down to 20 degrees. You find the weight again. That's why we see people kind of go up and down, because the diet isn't the root cause. The root cause is the self-image, and the self-image is all of these ideas, a million little detailed ideas about who you are, what you're capable of, who you're not. And people defend it, tune into it. People say that whenever you hear yourself or other people, that's who I am, that's just what I'm like, that's me. We need this as human beings because it kind of gives us something to hold on to. But understand this, it's keeping you where you are. But the most exciting part about this for me is when you understand this, you know that the way for results, and quick results, like not even, quicker results than you've ever experienced, is to get your self-image where it needs to be before the results. So for example, I get an image in my mind in tune with this senior role that I had. I see myself in that role. I imagine myself in that role. I think the thoughts of that person in that role. And I start to kind of step into those shoes. When I get the role, my mind's ready. Instead of my mind either catching up or pulling me back down, which is kind of how it happens. So you can ask yourself, where is your setting? And I encourage you to do this. What's your self-image setting? Where do you see yourself? In relation to money, you'll have a figure in mind, roughly a lifestyle plus a figure around what you expect for your life. And then if you think of a millionaire will have a setting. It's a different setting from yours. If you're not a millionaire, I'm assuming you might be, but there's less of us who are millionaires. Then just realize that it's just a setting. So the millionaire has just got his or her awareness up to a level of, I believe the thoughts of a millionaire, I think the thoughts of a millionaire, and my setting is up here with the thoughts of a millionaire. My setting is 30 degrees. If it's not, and you see this actually, you see like millionaires, billionaires who kind of lose everything. They're entrepreneurs, they lose everything. And then really, really quickly, they get it back again. Yet to most of us, like earning millions or billions seems like really challenging, even though a lot of people do it. To the millionaire, they do it once and they do it again because it's their self-image. It's how they see themselves, and they've got the awareness to do it, so they'll do it again. It's where they set, they'll never go below it. They've got a standard. So if you think about raising your standards in any one of these settings and then stepping into that person, the results come afterwards. Get your thinking there first, and then the results will show up in your life. So all of this then, so I've talked this, the habitual cycle of thought, that all you need to do is unravel and start to reprogram ideas that are in harmony with the thing that you want. All we're talking about is shifting your paradigm, overriding your paradigm. And I love this example because if you think about through history, there are universal paradigms, community paradigms, cultural paradigms. It was once universally believed that the earth was flat. And there are examples through history where science has kind of caused a universal paradigm shift. That's what we call it, a paradigm shift. So now that we believe the earth isn't flat, but all of the finest minds, all of the logic of that time, we were right to believe it was flat. Now translate that into your own world. All of these things you're believing about to be true about yourself, they are as true to you as the earth was true to people, as the earth was flat to people all those times ago. But it can be changed because it's a belief system. And there are only two ways a human can change their paradigm. First one is a direct emotional impact. So things like a death of a loved one, a redundancy, a divorce, maybe something about what's going on in the world right now is about to shift a paradigm. But usually this first way of changing a paradigm, this big emotional impact where your world is like shaken, and when it all settles down, you never look at the world the same again. Those types of paradigm shifts are usually negative. And we don't want you to have to wait for a negative event in your life to create a paradigm shift. There is another way. And the second way is by the constant spaced repetition of new ideas. So that subconscious part of your mind, the bit beneath the surface, the subconscious mind, it can't determine what's real and what's imagined vividly. So it takes on board anything you repeatedly tell it, whether it's true or false, it takes it on board and impresses it as real as a belief. That's why when you see kids who've been told they're useless all their lives, or the opposite, you're amazing, that belief system becomes who they are, because they don't kind of accept or reject it. It just goes straight in because they heard it on repeat. So you can start to upgrade the ideas in your paradigm to do exactly the same thing. Summarizing. Okay, summarizing this all up and then giving you 5 or 6 tools, 5 or 6 things you can do straight away. So we've said the paradigm controls your results. So understanding that you have a paradigm, if you didn't understand it before, you may well have done. Understand that it has almost exclusive control of your results and of your behavior, the way you feel, and your results. But excitingly, now you've got a paradigm that's in charge of your results. You can change the paradigm and change your results more easily than you've ever been able to change results in the past. What to do that? You must get on the frequency of your goal. What do I mean by that? So a lot of the time we kind of look at where we are and we have a goal that's up here and we say, I want to get to that place. But my goal up there, let's use a money example. It's just simple. Let's say you earn 50,000 a year and your goal is 1 million a year. Your ideas, your beliefs, your thoughts are down here on a frequency, a different frequency from the goal. And these thoughts that you're thinking are the thoughts of somebody earning 50,000. But you want to earn 1 million. You're not going to earn 1 million unless you get your thoughts on the frequency of somebody earning 1 million. The thinking has to be on that frequency, the beliefs, the ideas, your habitual actions, everything's got to think from the goal. Don't think to the goal. I think simplifying this, think from the goal. Create a vision of the goal in the future. Create the vision of who you are in receipt of that goal when you're in possession of these things that you want. Think from that place. Don't think from the current circumstances. Thinking from the current circumstances gets you more of the current circumstances. Think from the goal. That's the biggest thing you can take. So, how can you start applying all of this immediately? Now, there are 6 things. 6 things I'll talk you through here The first one, write your goal down. I get my clients a goal card and they carry it around with them. I give them other little visuals and tools, because the power in keeping your goal at the conscious part of your mind. Write down your goal and refer to it regularly. You know, you've got to cope. If you've got a big goal and you've got the paradigm telling you that you can't have it, and you've got these negative beliefs kind of trying to pull you away from it, you've really got to connect with your goal regularly to keep it alive. Think of it, watering a seed. You've got to keep the goal alive. And you're going to visualize yourself in the goal. Think of you in the goal. You are living in the life when you're already in receipt of the thing that you want. So you always write down your goal in the present tense. Don't write, I'm happy and grateful now that, don't write, I can't even do it the opposite way around now because I've done it this way for so long. Write it in the present tense. I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm in the job of my dreams, feeling calm and confident. You can see how that from a mindset point of view is really, really powerful. We don't write the goals based on what we're moving towards, because that creates a reality of always moving towards, as opposed to I'm already there. Then more practically, people ask me when I speak about this in seminars and we have a good discussion at the end, people ask me, that's okay, you're talking about big goals. What about my day job? What about the here and now? And what I say to them is, absolutely, I had a day job and it was to lead the integration of 2 global companies. At the same time, I spend 20 minutes a day focusing on goal achieving activities. So I had my big goal and I spent at minimum 20 minutes a day taking that goal forward. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that adds up. And I had a list of things I wanted to do. I'd refresh that list every night and I'd focus on goal achieving activities. The fourth thing, you might have heard this one, we're the average of who we spend our time with. I think it's like the 5 or 6 people we spend most of our time with, we'll be the average of. And that's not to kind of belittle anybody's circle, but it's to say, if you want to kind of grow and expand and have something different from where you are right now, you're going to want to surround yourself with people who are going to inspire, motivate, move, help, support. It tends to be the case. People don't mean to do this, but our family and friends like us how we are, and they kind of, in a well-meaning way, want to protect us. So surround yourself. It's not to say get rid of all of your friends and family, but surround yourself with people who are going to help you get what you want, who are going to inspire you, who you can learn from. And linked to that, you can create mastermind groups. So if your idea or your goal or something you want is something you don't know how to do, there'll be somebody who does know how, or there'll be somebody who can contribute. And you can create a mastermind can be as few as 2 people, you plus one other person. Just somebody, or at least one or more person who is going to sit down on a regular basis and help you move towards the thing that you're going after. And then finally, take 100% responsibility. Now, by this, I mean, think of the paradigm. What we all do, because this is the programming as well, we tend to look outside of ourselves and we say, I'm going to do this as soon as the world situation that we're in right now settles down. I'm going to do this as soon as my kids finish school. I'm going to do it as soon as my kids start school. I'm going to do it as soon as I've paid the mortgage off. And what we're doing then is we're living from our current reality. Instead of taking 100% responsibility, being decisive and saying, I want to make some change and I'm going to be decisive. I'm not going to think from my current circumstances. I'm going to think from my goal, from the thing that I want, and I'm going to take steps towards it. And that's you taking responsibility. That's in relation to your goal, but this applies to your emotional well-being as well. You can take 100% responsibility for getting emotionally connected to thoughts and ideas that are going to help you feel good every day, because we get what we focus on. So I would encourage you, especially with the climate as it is, try and just focus on the outcomes you do want and not to be focusing on the outcomes that you don't want. So those are 6 things. And what I've done today is kind of give you, some of the most powerful high-level ideas. that I get into deeply through the course of the 12-step system that I teach. Ultimately, the way to continuously go after big goals, step-by-step change your paradigm, is through the system that I teach, the 12-step system. That is a development course. And actually, I study this on a loop now, right? Because you get a goal, then you set a bigger goal, and you kind of realize that you're forever expanding and you're forever upgrading your belief system, and it kind of gets bigger and bigger. But that is the ultimate way to do it. In the meantime, start applying this immediately in your own life. And do let me know how you're getting on. I'm going to post this recording in the group. I'm not going to do a live Q&A through this session because they're kind of quite hard to manage with a webinar. But I'm going to post this in the group, and when you listen to it, either you listened live or on the replay, just if you're comfortable, it'd be lovely if you share what your light bulb moments were, share how you're getting on, post a question if you need support or you've got questions from the content that I've shared today. Then definitely get in touch and let us use the community that I'm trying to create in this group so we can support each other. And right there, you'll get some mastermind support. That could be one of the 6 actions that you take. So finally, I'll just leave you with a quote. The common denominator of success is that successful people do the things that failures don't like to do. Now that could be a number of things, and it'll have different meanings to different people. But, you know, successful people, what do? You know, they tend to be people who have powerful morning routines. They tend to look after their physical and mental well-being. They tend to always have a coach or a mentor. They tend to be always developing themselves. They're prepared to do the inner work. You know, this inner thinking, we're kind of not used to thinking. We have mental activity, but we're not used to thinking, and that takes effort. But if we want to live a life on our terms, and you learn how to think in powerful ways, once you know this stuff, there's no unknowing it. You won't go back, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. So thank you so much. We're dead on the hour, so I will wrap it up quickly, and I'll get this posted on YouTube and into the Facebook group. And thank you for attending today and listening on the live, and let me know if I can help. Speak very soon. Bye.